Be a first.
Yeah, well, great. I'm Scott, and this is Sevada, and this is Fourth Branch Eden.CoOp Live, rebranded as of yesterday.
Hello.
Woohoo to the nobody audience. People are going to be so confused. First episodes are all like Locamore, 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 and now it's like Scott pivoting again.
That's okay. I think the best place to pivot is in the beginning.
Yep, exactly.
If you're going to pivot anywhere, please just pivot in the beginning.
Yeah, and a little bit less along the way. I think it's feeling cooked. Feeling like I've got like work planned for Q1, Q2 loosely framed for everyone on the team.
Good.
And where it seemed, I'm sure it seems vague to people in some ways at this time, Christina, like, which part of this do you want me to take care of? Actually, we've got a really tight lane for you. You're going to be helping us shape the docs and assets for investors for the Swift scale model. And rather than meta, I'm just calling it swift scaling. How fast and how big can we go? So I'm curious, we've got like a little like an opportunity to explore you and
Okay.
maybe get what you're seeing in it, where you came from, who is Sevada, and then we're figuring out what the alignment and magic is. We haven't even really done the deep dive about, stuff that you've been cooking up that relates to this. So, like, who is Sevada?
Oh, you asked the easy questions today. That's good.
Yeah, and say your last name too for everyone's benefit.
Javot Razorians. I got the easy one.
Wow. And it's got like Aryan in it too, right? Which is like
Yeah.
from that region, the original Aryan folks,
It
right?
has an Armenian. That's an Armenian ending to it. Yeah.
Yeah. And Aryan, Armenian, similar, right?
Yeah.
Yep. The original people.
The original people. That's what some people say. I stay unbiased. I'm not getting into that conversation.
Exactly. I think there's an African original people, and then there was another like alien intervention up around there. Something.
It's too loaded of a discussion. I'm not going. I got other things to fry in this life.
Yeah, well, you don't look like the typical German that the Aryan name was used for back in that day, right?
Yeah.
Which is interesting, even though you had time in Germany too. So,
I grew up in Germany. I went to school there, spent most of my life there. I became half of the man I am today over there. So
yep. Yeah. And what an interesting combination. Iranian, Armenian, German cultural upbringing. How long in LA?
close to 15 years now, 14, 15 years.
Yeah.
And
I'm just a little bit more than you.
other stops here and there. This is the first time where I'm settling, where I'm like putting down roots. Otherwise, I've just put my bag here and call it home and then go somewhere else kind of.
Yep. And we met like around the song circle and just, put out the word in Unjam or Harmonize or one of the community, a couple of the communities about starting something up here. And you were like, yeah, I play some guitar and I'd like to get in there. And we just held that down for I think six rounds. And then I'm putting it aside, and you're kind of diving into music as a side vocation that you've got a lot of experience in. How many instruments are you messing with?
I, I've played a lot over the years, but it's like three or four that I'm comfortable with nowadays that I try to, get involved in projects. I write my own songs and all that stuff. I record them. I play most of the instruments myself. And it's been since I started when I was, I don't know, 6 or 7. So, along the way, I'm 42 now. So along the way, you pick up a few things. You get bored with one. You're like, oh, let me do a season of this, a season of that, and a season of that. And then you don't play something for a while, and then this and then that. Yeah.
Kind of like our per multi-dimensional inquiries, but which instruments are your three right now? And which one did you start with, and which are the three now?
I started with piano. That was my first instrument. Then I switched over to drums. And then I had the issue of like, all my friends were going in the park and to bonfires and they're, like being, what do I call it, being successful with women. And I'm like, I can't bring my piano. I can't bring my drum set. Like this sucks. Why did I choose this instrument? I'm being a teenager. Like this is a long time ago, right? So I'm like, I want to play guitar too. And that's where I started picking up guitar. And that transitioned into bass after a while. And then I bought a violin, a trombone, a trumpet, and, just stuff to play around with all the time. But I would say drums, piano, and guitar are the three main things. I'm most versatile on drums. And on guitar and piano, I have a certain language on it, and I stick only in that lane. So drums is I can do almost anything, and the other ones it's like I have this, and that's what I do, and I don't really go past that.
Cool. And then, the first time we met too, we talked about wellness, and you got like unusually for like a lot of the people that I meet, and I'm in a lot of cutting edge like wellness circles, a very specific and well-informed, tuned sense of how to navigate your food supply and your wellness and your
Oh,
practice, which we haven't even explored practice yet.
yeah.
But like, I'm curious, what's the wellness package right now?
Um, it's adaptive and it's fluid. So I really stay away from putting too many labels and definitions on because I grow as a human being. The science grows every day. The understanding grows every day. It's a very spiritual approach for me. My whole life has been a spiritual and philosophical approach. So everything is more about that. And then the science and everything comes in as a support to build the framework on that. So the current, I mean, the wellness thing is move every day, engage your muscles every day. So it doesn't have to be, I don't do the lifting in the gym and stuff. I'm more of a go rock climbing, go surfing, go hiking, do stuff and carry your grocery bags, park far away kind of thing. That's how I keep active. That's how I keep my muscles engaged. The way life used to be in quotation marks, right? Plenty of research shows that people who stay active, they stay alive. So that's kind of how I like to be active.
Yep. And then the food part, though, is a
The-
lot of raw ingredients and sprouts,
yes,
right? And veg for protein, and really not much in the way of animal protein at all, right?
correct. So the food, I I'm currently on this philosophical thing of how could I be closest to God? Where I put it in quotation marks because it's not in my belief structure to use that name exactly. And within that exploration, I I look at the circumstance of how I live currently and where we are and the possibilities and the capabilities. Meaning if tomorrow you and I we fly to an island and there's no supermarkets and there currently nothing is blooming on the tree, we're gonna make a spear, we're gonna run into the jungle or into the ocean and we're gonna kill something, we're gonna, chop it up, put it on the fire and eat it. I'm not opposed to that at all. In the current condition that I am, while the tree has all the apples on it, I'm going to pick the apple and eat the apple. When the tree runs out of apples, then I will figure out what comes next.
Yeah.
And when I do pick the apple, I just see no sense of, putting it on a fire and making anything else out of its deliciousness that it already is on the tree. So really staying connected to that. Why? Because I believe in this. I would use the word symbiosis, even though it's not, I've been educated that it's not the right word for this. In this, everything seems to have a harmony to it, a weaving into it. Not always for the benefits. Sometimes, things also die. But everything is a system that seems to be working perfectly together. And when I look at the food on the tree or in the ground, whatever, right? It seems to be perfectly weaved in with what this is, and it's perfectly functioning. So I see no reason to change it from its form that it is. Unless, of course, the circumstance, like I said, we're on an island and there's no tree, then sure, I'll have to rethink the moment then.
So where do you shop?
Ah, I like to go around and see who has the best deals currently. So going in season, like currently pineapples are very affordable deals going on. Pineapples. A month ago it was blueberries, and going through the seasons, different stores have different sales on certain things, and so I kind of have my routine pattern of
Which
going to
stores?
that.
Like, I'm curious, like, really, like, which stores do you go to? Which brands,
I
which
go to
grocery stores
Trader
or what?
Joe's, I go to Sprouts, I go to
Yeah.
Super King. Those are like my three main things. I
Yeah.
would love to shop at farmers market. Unfortunately, my life circumstances don't allow for
The
that.
budget is just, it's so expensive. It's
It's
like you might as
insane.
well be
Absolutely.
shopping at Erewhon. It's a good support, community support, and I do it as a kind of like gift to our farmers market to keep it alive. But I can generally afford it. And if I could, I probably would shop there for everything. But I do the same thing at Sprouts, some Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, and maybe rarely some stuff at Ralph's. if I need to. And then, yeah, farmers market's the jam. And then I'm lucky once in a while, my buddy Brando comes up with some local mushrooms. I'm like, awesome.
Nice.
Occasionally some stuff out of my yard that I've got growing, and that's it. Yeah. Any supplements in the package or no?
Um, that's where I'm not certain. Currently, I'm not taking any supplements. The debate goes, this whole B vitamin thing, and I don't really want to make a statement. I'm currently not taking any, but I'm not sure if I'm going to continue that way or not. But the blood work, I get checked and everything is fine. So, but for longevity, again, I'm going to have to educate myself more on the supplement thing before I can make full statements on that.
Yeah, I'm in the calcium and chondroitin and stuff just to like fill in the joints things because I've got some weakness there. So I know doing exercise, it's activating blood flow in those areas. So for just for repair, if not maintenance, and for bones, apparently, yeah, the calcium spectrum. And there's a thing that I use for my teeth for brushing. I'm blanking on the name now. It starts with like an X in it. Anyway, it's like a precursor to the formation of calcium in our system. So I'll even like, eat it and swallow my healthy toothpaste, Tom stuff, and get like that calcium and forget what the supplement's called, but just looking at the science on what works and what can repair things and strengthen things that don't get enough nourishment in the typical supply. Interesting. What about like mindfulness practice? Anything woven in, or is just part of your exercise routine?
Oh, absolutely. So I think my whole life is a mindfulness practice because of my connection to spirit, living that way with everything that I touch and do. The whole thing kind of becomes that way. I don't have a like this is my specific practice. I play my guitar the way people meditate. I
Mm,
go rock climbing the way people meditate. When I go for a walk, that's my major like it's a mindfulness practice. So I try to stay away from, oh, I need to do this and I need to do this. When they go on, I might participate, but I don't really do that as this is my thing. I try to live the philosophy that that alignment of mindfulness, spirit, God, whatever you want to call it, philosophy is within every action. So I like to speak that way. I like to sing that way. I like to play that way. I like to walk that way. I like to run that way. And my mindfulness practice lies within staying aligned and centered and always hopefully present within living life that way. And
yeah, I dig it. I mean, I think, when I look at the Blue Zone people, none of them have a meditation practice. Very few of them do something like Qigong or yoga. Very few of them work out. It's walking, it's community and family and connection, it's healthy, simple food. And it's in a light balance, if any protein, and it usually includes some, it's a light dose, and very few supplements, if any. Right. And that's just like, and then apparently yogurt and fermented food, though. That has been a standout that I've noticed in just a couple of the Blue Zone old, the really old people, they report on what their lifestyle is and what they note. And everything else is Blue Zone standard. But one of the recent standouts was this woman from Spain who traveled to the Americas in the 1920s. You're exposed to some crazy shit doing that back then, a lot of stress in early life, and yet lived to 117 or 120 something. And she was just like yogurt at every meal. I'm like, okay, that's that. And then you find that fermented food thing and fermented dairy in so many of the cultures worldwide. I'm just like big fan of that one.
I think there's a lot of biohacking talk going on nowadays that I'm not, I mean, not that I'm not supportive of it, but I think it's like if we have a spectrum of 100%, that's like maybe the 5%, like maybe Olympian athletes really need to worry about that.
Yeah.
But the basic 95% we seem to like kind of neglect and all that biohacking stuff really doesn't matter if don't sleep, don't
Yeah.
hug people, don't touch earth, touch a tree, like be in the rotation of what life actually is. Again, the system I'm talking about that whatever creator has done this, right? As long as we're in the weaving of the system, I think health comes from here, not from any specific food or supplement or anything. And of course, the food needs to be weaved, right? The connections need as long as everything is weaved together in that so-called system, then I believe health just lives there.
Yeah.
That's
And
my
I'm
blue zone.
And I'm going into this because, when we spoke about it, it was obvious you had like a passion and an interest and you'd gone deeply into it. So it's like once you get the deep, though, then it becomes a practice thing that you just like hold the practice. And that's what I like about my, Qigong, for instance, is that it's woven into my day. the way that prayer is a set for the beginning of my day, and the way that the health begins with like mocha and a super smoothie. I just love what it does for my energy at the start of the day. It just, slow rise and then sustain, and then a nice lunch. Probably overeat at lunch, but still, it's just like that. And you notice that you reported this too. It's like you notice what actually maintains or lifts energy and what takes it down.
Absolutely.
And then so then there's this like, the career evocation intellectual expression piece, which I'm curious about, right? Because what has been the career path? And key points and stuff that you loved and stuff that you despaired in doing.
So it all started before I call myself conscious of it, right? So I was the 8-year-old that used to tell my parents, like, there's a better way. This is not right. What you guys trying to teach, what society is trying to teach is not the right way. Standard response like, oh, you'll grow up one day and you'll learn and you'll adapt. And I was always like, nope, nope, no, not happening. That philosophy that came from somewhere, right, while I was a kid, drew me into the arts,
Mm.
specifically music, which now in retrospect, I know it was the desire to use that medium to express the word, to share the word. It's almost as if I was holding sermons every time I was doing music. So I
And
know
what
I'm
and
not a
what what
musician.
what were you sharing? What was the sermon about when like as it took shape and you felt like, oh, I've got a handle on this and now I'm doing some art that's different from my friends. What was coming out?
There's a better way. We
Better
can't,
way.
there's too, to take an unpoetic words to this, so it's clear. There's too much pain in the world that we're inflicting. It is our fault. We need to pay better attention and we can do better because we're smarter than this and we need to care about each other and
Hmm.
we need to care about each other. Like it's this is our life. This is it. There comes even if something comes after it, I don't know, but this is it. And we need to like we owe it not just to ourselves, but everybody else. And if we just do it together, it'd be so much better and so much easier. Like, why aren't we? There's a
Yeah,
better way.
100%. It really doesn't get more simple. It's what Eden's about. It's like I have different ways of saying it poetically or like just as simply as that. But it's like, better players deal with your own life. Be a better team player, play a better game, design a better game, recreate the game to be better. So it's better for us to play and learn ourselves and learn how we work better with others, support our friends to play along with us, our neighbors, whoever in your expanding field, and then world changes, right? Just on that basis. Taking responsibility for it thoroughly, right? Because no one's going to do it for us, especially at this point. Is like, what is it going to be like? Some freaking like socialist like get help card to help yourself. In the
I
end,
don't
it's
think
always going to come to be like build the muscles yourself and do
absolutely.
it with your team. So how have you manifested that? I mean, I get that that's the message and the theme. It's like spiritual connection, which I'd like to bookmark and drop into in a second. But in terms of how you evolved that practice, have you done it mostly alone? Have you had friends, kind of informal buddies, mentors, online sources, and heroes? What's the spectrum of support and information that helps you shape that along the way?
Um, my journey up until recent past has been the one of a, how do I express it? Of a traveler that is on a mission to deepen this first. There was a lot of learning and a lot of growing and a lot of becoming who I am today before I even got to the point where I'm like, yes, now there's enough of a voice, now there's enough of skill, now there's enough of a foundation and an understanding and a dance and a relationship to where even now the outward push actually is a viable thing. Um, the whole, for example, the whole music thing, the sermon thing, right? It was an ignorant dream because I didn't know anything about life. I didn't know anything about myself. I had such ignorant dreams. I thought it was just like this. I didn't know about the psychology of human beings and about mass and about gaps and all these things. Like I didn't know. I was a kid. I had good dreams, but that just doesn't really work. So that dream also ended at some point in time, which was roughly 10 years ago, because I realized that's not the way. I'm stuck in this pop culture music thing. That's how I'm making my money, but it's not really, there's no door. There's like, I'm
You were
gonna
trying
lead
to
with
make
that.
it as a musician.
Yeah, I mean, I make it as a musician is a loose term, right? I was making my money with it. Eventually, I opened my own artist development company. I had my own recording studio. I was touring. I was working as a tech. I was working as an engineer, as a writer. Got my name on, major records and everything. So I was doing well. If I would have continued that way, I would have, yes, the quote unquote made it, right? Whatever that means, in whatever role or hat I was wearing. But when I realized that this is not it and it doesn't represent that original reason why I started, I saw that it doesn't represent that anymore and that the path to that it just wasn't it anymore. So I just closed the door. From when I realized from one night to the next, it was lock the door, never open it again, and take the loss, whatever it was. I had no time to waste and I walked away.
So what did you start doing after that? So it's really music career, really weaving it in terms of on the, the post side, the off stage, behind the stage, and front of the stage, behind the recordings and as a recording artist. And then, so, you're mastering a whole field, right? And you know that the industry has a certain shape and configuration, and it's rough on the road if you're doing something iconoclastic and self-expressed. You're lucky. It's like a lottery ticket if you happen to land with true self-expression and not just shaping yourself to fit the market. And then, woo, I'm a pop star. Right? It's just like, but you look like a Barbie after that, or you look like that rock thing that's a grunge guy, if that's what it is in the time, and or you're using auto tune in the 2000s to 2026, right? In some form, right? It's all that thing that goes into pop music and even stuff people doing like nostalgic old forms. It's like hardly any traction for anything like that except from your boomers craving a cover like band. And then there's the authentic auteurs and the authentic self-expressed, like really creating a sound that's your own and stuff. That's like, it doesn't really have a market. I think it really is more appropriately a self-expression jam where you find your buddies occasionally who like to jam your way. Like for me, it's like, if I had my ideal intellectual spiritual buddy, it would be Kabbalistic Dzogchen, Taoist Qigong, contemporary science, like metaphysics and at the edge of speculation, all in one, right? That would be my buddy. And have I met one? There's a few who cross the Venn diagrams, right? But it's just it's mine, right? And I don't expect to like have a pop audience for that, right? But that's one of those strange and very powerful and important things where you want to bring your version of it into the world and see the world match you. And then it's like, but it's this blending of like pop star for this weird iconoclastic thing. And those two desires are different desires, right? The need to
But
be seen, heard, understood, and how broadly really is what matters, right?
I mean, there's a whole thing behind what it takes to be successful, and those things just don't align. There's too much of a business aspect that is, and I mean, you can get lucky, right? Some people might get lucky, they can do the full authentic thing, but that's very, very, very rare. It's a very long road to get there. And that's what I just do what I love musically nowadays. If it ever happens, great. If it doesn't, great, right? It's a personal thing for me. And the authentic expression was long gone. I mean, the last big part of my career was had nothing to do with authentic expression. I was lost in the business world of it just because, I was a young kid and just got lost in the wrong directions. And
And LA is big, man. It's like coming into New York and trying to make it there. You're gonna have to shape to the freaking giant machine in some way. And if you can make it there, you're making it as a New Yorker. In LA, it's got a similar thing that's less clearly defined, but it's a similar, massive, almost like machine culture that has so much forceful flow moving through it in the music industry, especially, or in comedy, in the arts, that it's just like that iconoclastic version is just like in a small town. Yeah. Sevada plays
see,
his songs, but he does it really well. And we do it around the fire. We love him because no one else is entertaining us as the shaman, freaking whatever it's called, the troubadour in our town. You come to a big town, it's like, oh no, man, we got some pro fucking troubadours here in a troubadour industry.
see, even in the big city, right? So if I would have known better, if there was a version of me that steps in front of me and I would coach them or guide them, mentor them as the big brother that I can be now, And if their alignment was like mine was, I would tell them you take none of those jobs. You stay poor, but you do exactly what you want to do. And I fully believe if I would have done that, the world would be listening to my music right now. But I
Yeah.
spent 10, 15 years going down the wrong path. And I thought magically that I can just jump over paths and doesn't exist. I
Yeah.
needed to stay true to that path. And because I didn't, I just got lost somewhere completely different. And the gap just came wider and wider. And there's no bridge between those gaps at that point.
Yeah, I'll tell you a little story, like almost a parable of what the difference is when you are a migrant to a new place, as I have been coming to America and having to reinvent and fortunately finding my way into this ayahuasca world where I was just so blown away and so in love and so wanting to share it. And it didn't take a big audience. What a lot of people found in the ayahuasca and plant medicine world is that you could charge in the early days, and even now, people serving 5-MeO for like $200 or $500 or $1,000 a ceremony per person. You can crank it as an iconoclastic artist, and everyone's just blown away on the trip that you get to do what you want. And they're like, thank you so much. You changed my life. Your voice is so beautiful. I'm like, thank you. The contrast to that, or is coming in and not having that economic vehicle or that magic pill to drop in at the same time. And then there's my daughter's partner, who's a musician, grew up in an affluent part of Santa Monica, went to a really good local private school, stayed in networking community in this entertainer-led town, parents who were in the industry. He gets the chance to be able to like have the support from his family and his school to be iconoclastically expressed and not just whispered in his ear, but a whole bunch of people just like do what you love, follow your bliss, express according to that. He's not an awesome musician when my daughter met him, just like casual piano and maybe some guitar. And then he gets into school, studies liberal arts, comes out, develops his musical craft, their musical craft, they're them, they. And their musical craft becomes like this iconoclastic expression, like jazz creator in the later part with a pop sensibility to still do it in a way that's friendly and responsive to their audience, but very much their expression, unique, and then to find an audience that matches them and then hold that center, not big audiences, but improvingly growing and people recognizing that in the person of the artist, they found themselves identifying as someone like his teachers, like his parents, as basically being the voice of the modern, the meta modern mother, whatever the fuck you want to do it. That's implicit in his music and culture and who he was invited by around the world to perform. Not huge audiences, a lot of effort to go on tour. Never make that money from ticket sales because you got your three, four bandmates that each need to get paid from the same ticket. Self-managed, even when the management company says they're going to do it, they don't. When the record company says they're going to do X, Y, and Z, they can only really do this much. It's not a big artist or anything. And then the improving sales, decent sales, and then the good luck of one of those tracks and a couple of other gigs working in the industry to sustain. And then at a certain point, they recognize this isn't going to be enough to sustain me. I've got friends who are pairing it with another career, maintains the art, and they are now training to become a therapist with friends who are therapists and lead a band, a therapist center in that part of town that's friendly to this. There's a culture now supporting this iconoclastic expression, not expecting to be pop stars, not expecting to be part of some monolithic corporate Coca-Cola pumping machine, right? Like Taylor Swift, God bless her, but she's a very important avatar and priestess in the culture, but she's fit into the machine to try to steer the machine modestly, as those well-intentioned people do. Mostly they are steered and they do a little bit of tweaking of the direction of the ship, a little bit. I'm woke. I'm for Biden. I'm for LGBTQ, and I'm selling Coca-Cola and really reinforcing the systemic machine. You know, where Lucas is like iconoclastic, part of a local culture, but nourished to be able to do it, right? There's a beautiful story by Gabriel Garcia Marquez that talks about this parable of a young person who could be the artist, but who's just shattered in challenged circumstances in a poor town somewhere, and the wings are broken on his angel capacity. And that's like the extreme. Like what you talk about, the pain and the suffering is the lost opportunity of people like us who kind of pushed through in different generational circumstances. I had a lot of advantage. And then Lucas, my daughter's partner, who's really had one of the better versions of that support and uplift for self-expression, sustaining. The wings are pretty well formed there and clear enough to know, oh, I fly here and there's small wings for my art, and I fly here and they're nice small wings for my give and my career, my ikigai. What I'm inching towards is like, how do we do late stage ikigai, right? Where you're 42, where you're 60, you tried a bunch of stuff, it's been exciting and good, and you've learned and you've developed talent, and then it's like, what's next and how do you give shape to that? So back to the original question, what have been the career options and have you done it alone or with support?
Have I done it alone or with support? I mean, the support I find is the communities I find where I go dance. It could be literally dance, but it dance
Yep.
to feel held, to feel the alignment, to feel the energy. That's the support that holds me, but the endeavor's been alone and needed to be until now. Um, and even what I'm currently continuing is a thing that at this current stage of it needs to be alone, even though in the future there is the vision of the expansion, but not there yet at all yet.
So what have been the career options preceding and then after the music career shifts 10 years ago? What did you start doing? And what were
So
you doing a little bit before to fill in the gaps financially if you needed to? I'm just curious what you were attracted to or what you just opted for.
luckily, there wasn't that much of a need to fill in gaps during the music career. I mean, in the beginning, of course, while I was younger, I just do odd jobs, right? Still to this day, if I need a paycheck, handyman stuff is always the go-to thing because I'm very skilled at that. I can really design and build custom anything or fix anything really. Um,
Do
and
you
even
weld?
do,
Do
excuse
you
me?
weld? Do you weld?
Of course I will, yeah. Uh,
Oh, we got a project, dude. We got a
right
fun
on.
project. Okay.
During the music career, as it was growing, I was working for a sound company. Um, that was like the steady paycheck where, I fixed equipment, I prepped equipment to go on tour and stuff like that. So the handyman just for the audio world kind of thing,
Yeah.
which that also, the engineering stuff also rooted from that. And so once the whole music thing died, the first thing that came was depression and heavy,
Mm.
heavy. This was like the heaviest breakup I've ever experienced in life. And it took me close to 5 or 6 years to ever touch an instrument.
Same for me with ending ayahuasca almost 10 years ago now. And it was curious around the same time I was told to let it go by spirit. And it was just like that was the best experience I've had in my life. It checked a lot of boxes, experientially, immersive, communally connected, unified field experience. It was off the fucking charts. And I was singing for a living, in a manner of speaking. And it was just like, ah, yeah, I didn't acknowledge the depression because our family culture masks shit like that and lives in denial instead. But I was definitely going in and out of weed smoking and kind of
Oh,
like
I was in
trying
denial.
things.
Believe me,
And
I was in denial.
yeah,
Heavily in denial, but I know this now. I'm telling you all this in retrospect. There's no awareness at that point.
yep, yep. So okay, so you were picking up gigs, and it was really just kind of like, oh, this is. And what were you doing? What was that bump, bump, bump along the way?
So I kind of disconnected a little bit and just lived so minimally, so cheaply that I didn't have to do much. And that's where I really deepened my dance with spirit, where I really went deep into nature. And I did this thing where I think it was for over 6 months, I didn't miss a single sunset. It was this thing, hike up on top of the mountain, watch the sunset every single night, and look at this world and understand where you actually are, understand your vantage point. And then there was a time where I hunted down every single tree in Los Angeles and sat underneath it and wrote. Like, it was really this, let me dive into spirit and let me really feel you, let me really find you, and let me find myself in it. Because the question was, I just gave up the love of my life. It was clear. So what has to come next has to be something that's grand enough, that is worthy of that sacrifice. I can't just go walk into a different job and make money. Like, I have to figure out who am I and why am I doing this and where am I going with this and what was the purpose of even getting here and how do I feel Spirit's calling to me and what can I do in this? How can I be that change that I so desperately wanted since I've been a little kid?
Yeah, and get paid for it and be rewarded and find your self-expression. It's like Ikigai, when I first saw it, I was just like, great concept, right? And apparently it's the guy who wrote the book took the Japanese principle and then distilled it almost as a new invention, right? And then like we've talked about, and I've had some time to investigate how to expand it with the, so for people who aren't familiar, in case anyone's ever watching this, it's what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can get paid for. It's like as if you have those circles and the Venn diagram in the middle is like boom, bullseye. And we add to that who you'd like to work with, your learning style, how much challenge you want in that thing, and how much purpose, what your actual, you know, calling is that motivates you beyond what you love, which can be passion, but purpose is the distinction in what you love. It's like what you would give your life for, whether you feel the love of it or not. You just are driven to do it. So all those factors create a super sweet spot or differently differentiated for different parts of your life. So you can tickle all those aspects of oneself to feel fulfilled and fully expressed, multidimensional and multi-sensory, including those inner senses of like the who feeling, that I'm with good people, that I'm stimulated, that I'm doing what I love. All of them get some kind of activation and stimulation. It's like, nourishment in food, nourishment in breath, nourishment in aesthetics, nourishment in sound. All of them are important because they activate the whole system, working the whole body in different ways. All of it. I like to be that multidimensional kind of human as I've learned over time. Sounds like you got something similar going, right? Playing on all cylinders, all directions, all limbs. Yeah, so then like and the spiritual practice is really interesting. So you're sitting and you're experimenting with different stuffs around wellness, health, activities. How did you explore the Ikigai frame in your version of it? Where were you showing the experiments were giving you fruit, were showing the path?
So I wasn't. The decisions I made, they were to a degree detached from this three-dimensional world. I really became a spiritual man in my own version. And the getting paid thing, I just put to the side and I decided I'm just going to do labor stuff. I started driving Uber. I did handyman work. I just took any gig that I could just to sustain, but leave me the freedom to go after me and go after this dance of spirit. Because I realized the dreams that I have, until I don't figure out this dance, this whole understanding that I'm carrying now, that I'm pushing into life with, nothing else gonna matter.
Yeah.
And the dreams, not the dreams, but the goals that I set. So I have two paths that I'm currently, for a while now, following. And I realized that if I focus on the money too soon, I will not be able to deliver it in the way that I want to because I have to become a much bigger version of Sevada than I was at that point. And maybe that I actually, one of them is coming into fruition now where I feel big enough to do it actually. So it was really about giving myself the time to grow and to become and really to look, when I say I sat under the trees, I went on the mountain, spirit truly opened itself to me, which will be a whole different conversation, right?
We'll save
And
that one. Yeah.
yeah, so because of the way that dance unfolded bi-directionally at this point, and then it became multi-dimensional, like the experience. And let me tell you, all of this is sober, right? So no drugs involved whatsoever. There is no, like I went, did this and had this experience. The trees started talking to me sober. And when I say talking, right, we're not talking about little words. These are analogies, these are metaphors, right?
Totally.
So then two paths align, right? So one of them is understanding as the man that I am, as the experiences of life that I have, and as the understanding of the internal dance with spirit that I know, the power that I hold to be able to inspire and hold this for other people so they can live a better internal experience of life, completely disconnected from what they do from work and money and all that kind of stuff. So I started writing a book. I started developing workshops. I started developing the way how I can bring this to the people. And of course, then getting better at how do I deliver it. A dear friend of mine, she says, Sevada, your path is to heal people with your words. And even though I would have never expressed it that way because I'm still like, well, I'm too small, I can't, you know? But ever since she said that, I hold on to it. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And of course, packaged then in workshops and the book and everything. So it'll have a multi-dimension kind of things. And eventually, I would love to see myself being on stages, doing the speaking, holding satsang kind of style things where it's a space where people can find hope and they can find strength and they can find the internal dance between spirit and themselves. And of course, but free from the Indian traditions. I use the word satsang, but I don't like to name it that way because I want it to be free of any sort of tradition. This is really the personal dance between spirit and oneself. So that's the one aspect, right? I'm
Yeah.
going. Then the second aspect was okay, you're smart, Savada. You can figure this out, right? And there was this Indian guru guy who said something really brilliant. It's like, Savada, if you get to the end of your life and you didn't reach that goal, the only thing, doesn't mean you failed. The only thing it really meant you had a dream that was worth living for, right? So I have this, it's not a dream anymore. I understand how I can do this. And sorry, I'm going in circles here. My
No, it's
thought
good.
was, life is so fantastic. I truly believe that. The experiences of life I've had for such a long time, they're so deep. And I think to myself, everybody deserves to have the chance at life. So I asked myself, what does that mean? What does the chance at life mean, right? And I boiled it down to clean water and nutrition.
Mm.
Because everything else, look, it's up on you. I'm not going to go and build you a library. I'm not going to go build you houses. I'm not going to go and do none of that stuff. Like, I believe your luck needs to be made by yourself because everybody does, right? Even back in the day before all this technology, like we'd have to wake up, we'd have to find the water, we have to find the food, right? But there's circumstances in this world where people don't have access to these basic necessities. So they will wake up and they'll be hungry, they'll be weak, they'll, no water. Like you can't thrive like that. Now, if you're lazy after having those basic necessities, that's not my fault anymore, right? So my whole vision is level the playing field by giving that basic necessity to the whole world without really costing anything for them, right? So you don't have to struggle
Yeah, show a
through.
path that's really affordable, right?
Yeah,
And make it like because the way you talk about it is like you're getting some of the cheapest, most nutritive supply, right? For the base level, which, as I was discussing with Greg Stock yesterday, who's like all about AI and how it can change our whole lives, he's like, we're going to be in a world of superabundance. We already are in a world of superabundance. You can be poor and get fat eating the machine stuff that costs you more than the healthy stuff at the cheap stores that might not even be organic. It doesn't freaking matter, right? The people in the Seventh-day Adventists in Loma Linda, right here in LA, in the smoggiest part of LA, when it was the smoggiest it ever was, everyone's all like worried about like, oh no, the fires have made the water toxic and it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? You're breathing like, literally car pipe exhaust, 1,000-fold more complex and weird and potentially toxic. And our lungs can apparently handle it just doing the Seventh-day Adventist thing, which is Blue Zone Classic, good nutrition, decent water. They weren't even filtering their freaking water, no
you don't
reverse
need to.
osmosis.
The
And then
water that comes out of the rock, it's good.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Out of the pipe. Even your body can process chlorine and fluoride. It's not a fucking big deal. And
Look,
then just what they did have that I do feel is missing in your formula and is in Blue Zone is community, which you have in your family and you've had in your friend groups. But that's a crucial. That one's actually a
absolutely,
non-negotiable.
1000%.
And then the exercise piece, right? So it's community and movement, like nourishing the whole body and the spirit, right? Those are key elements, right? How about love? Has love been an important part, or have you kind of had it on the side, or is it occasional, or you don't have to
It,
get into it. It could be
it,
private and say my world,
it has been a huge part of it. I've had some of the most deepest, passionate experiences in life. Unfortunately, none of that has lasted. So there's currently no residue of that other than the memories and the deep passion that I hold in my heart. But I truly, I'm very old school in this modern world. I believe in love. I believe in romance. There's nothing more beautiful to me than what makes the heart bleed. It's it's I think it's love why we even having this conversation. When I
Yeah.
talk about this dance of spirit and other people and stuff, it's because of these beautiful human beings that came into my life and taught me what love is. And not just beautiful human beings. I remember I was a young kid and my neighbor bought a cat for his daughter, but then tossed it outside because he's like, "Dude, this can't be inside." We're talking about a little baby cat, right? So I just opened my door and I'm like, come in if you like, right? And she slept on my chest every single night. Like, first time I ever fell in love, it was magical. And all the beings in this life that have taught me love is why we're even having this conversation. If it wasn't for love, and I'm not talking about, "Ooh, I love everyone," because I think that's just ridiculous when anybody ever says that, because no, I don't love everyone. It's like,
Yeah.
that's not how it
Don't
works.
have to. It would be too much. 8 billion people. I
Some
can
people are just
empathize.
assholes.
Exactly. I have empathy generally in an abstract way because I kind of know that there's someone lost and doesn't have someone like I felt at times.
Absolutely,
And I
yeah.
want them to find their people and them to
Yeah.
make themselves at least amenable enough to find their people. But that's their problem. And I
Yeah.
want to create the conditions for that to be easier. But the heart and soul of it, I mean, what's interesting as you describe is it really is, I think, the minimum starts with water and nutrition, but, your passion, your own self-care is like, here's the menu, here's the buffet of the other options that I have found important. So you're talking about, in a way, a kind of coaching, mentorship type program. What's the book called?
The book, the current working title is "I'm the Driver," but that's not going to be the title once it's done. But that's how it started. And the
Works
book
for
actually,
LA.
people talk about downloads. I I was gifted with someone trusting me in their dire times of need when they struggle to hold on to life itself. And I became
Mm.
like the appointed person as a, not as a caretaker, but as the appointed person to trust and exchange. And that night, this book appeared. It was as if I understood the whole book within a fraction of a second. And since then, it's just, putting in the time to actually writing it so people can understand that which I already understand. And from that, then you notice, I don't know if you've ever written, but then you notice like, oh, I just wrote these 15 pages, but they don't really belong in this book. So let me put them over here. So by now it's a sequence of 4 books that has developed that's like all being written at the same time. Because if I put this in here, it's too complex. So it has to go here. And
I've
it's,
done the same thing. With Locomore, it's like, and you've seen the freaking
yeah,
doc profile. It's 20 docs. There have been 40 docs. With AI, it accelerates it because I let go a while ago. I tried to write a book around this same thing 4 years ago, thinking, oh, that would be the perfect coffee table offering at the beginning of this. 3 years ago? Yeah, 2.5 years ago. And worked with AI and whatever. And I was just like, doesn't feel right. This is like, and it's so heavy and front loaded. And I've gotten them. Now I'm very strictly, it's dialectical, it's process based, it's through the engagement, it's the way is the game. It's let's do a project together and learn the way in the enterprise movement game with other players who are multidimensional, who are handpicked to be in the game because everyone on this team plays a multidimensional game, is multidisciplinary, is right and left brain not balanced, but very exercised. It takes care of their whole system multidimensionally, understands work-life balance, even potentially our Yale MBA who's upstairs. This is a profound, like unbelievable spectrum of freaking X-Men Ninja of the meta modern form of this new emergent thing. I'm a total fan of books because of the exercise, right, of writing my 20 docs and using the AI. But when it comes down to it, it's just a rough guidepost. Like the Tao says, the words are, I'm putting words in the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu's mouth, a corruption. of the dynamic living spirit that always changes with each moment and each interaction, each person with themselves in spirit, with themselves in the other, with themselves in a group. Hey, babies, you don't play any particular instrument. You might have certain facilities. You don't play in any kind of ensemble. Most of y'all are just like we are in this dynamic jazz, right? Learning the standards that we are attracted to, and then it's jazz around those standards. If someone's really got a different tune, sometimes I'm so curious it changes my life to listen to that new strain, that different mode, that different instrument, which, in the metaphor is works in music, but works very much at the personal development level. So, this is where, like, for me, the action of what's come forward is like, oh, Deb, awesome. Stage one is you're a master at how to open people up to just start mapping their ikigai. And Elliot, you're a master at reflecting that in data that's human and a voice in the AI that's super getting you, but wanting to tease you out. Now, what's missing in that is what happens the next day, which I've been coming back to. Oh, the next day is the journey. Those who opt in, you can put up your shingle. This is what I offer. I already know it. I'm busy. I can't deal with anything more. I already have a coach. Okay, fine. But many people are doing this alone, and they could take coaching, which could come from an AI and or a person. Group work makes having a real facilitated coach a great way to onboard one-on-one when it's relevant for those coaches. And then those coaches are also working with people who have buddies and do accountability group to define their own dreams and then to realize on those dreams. And what I wrote down was you design and run and play out your own dream and experiment to realize it, your own dreams and experiments to realize those dreams. That's what you've described. That's what I think is our next program. And where I have had this hunch, now it's been like 3 for 3 with Deb, with Elliot, with Christina, strong alignment with Jamie. She's multi-dimensional in a wild kind of way. Cannot be locked down. You too, but with now this clearer orientation for what I think is like going to be one of the golden expressions that we can offer people as a journey that could be a paid value thing from the beginning. Because now you're on a journey. Not only do we develop your neighborhood as a local economy of well expressed and data mapped individual offers, and then your ask profile too, but you're on a journey that people in your neighborhood, in your friend group, in your potential love group are like, oh, that person's taking the journey to grow as an effective lover or as an effective friend or as an effective collaborator in that thing they say they want to do that they don't have facility in yet. They've got some skills, but I want to move to become a coach is a different thing than I'm a great handyman, right? I've got a lot of this, but now I need to go out into the world. Where do I get to play? Who with? Right? And that's where I'm seeing like your thing of like what aligns with what Eden's about is things that I've been passionate about that I think are part of this new social science experiment. Really, like I was talking with Greg yesterday, and he's a big fan of science and social science and personal psychology and development and the book of questions, how to get people connected, PhD in multiple fields and a deep dive in AI that might as well make him a PhD in AI. And he's like, we both recognize that there's like, oh, there's this new thing happening, which is a social experiment to use collective intelligence and science analysis and people as the primary observer, subject, and object of the new experiment. This thing you design, you're responsible for, you run and you play out your own dreams for your life and experiments to realize those dreams. And who are you doing that with? That really becomes like hugely amplified at that point because then it's like, oh, I need to go and try this out with a few different groups. I'm going to try a few AA groups out. I'm going to try a few coaches out. I'm going to try a few support groups out. You might change and do some speed dating for quite a while, over a year or two before you're like, I love this group I'm in. These bros, they're not at me. It's a weird spectrum, or these co-ed groups, which is what I favor. Get out of the men's and women's freaking like middle school freaking primitive I don't know, even it's almost embarrassing that we're still in like middle school, girls on one side, boys on the other, in a post-trans world, right? That's even a spectrum default is like an embarrassment of immaturity in our culture, right? So like to do this in Sangha with the groups that come over, the groups of friends, or if you're too shy to do it with your friends, we've got a great affinity kind of match stranger group for you. You want to try this? But don't, you can do it alone. And it's important not to have the forced voice of teachers and ideologies on you. But we're social animals. It's so much more vivid in most cases to do it in context and juxtaposition of other. And it creates the offering of peer mentorship and survivorship. It's not just for you, it's because it's in the give back cycle of doing you in the context of other. And the way that my men's group, I think, is like, it's a brilliant thing. You just share to the group. You record your own accountability. You maybe have an accountability buddy. You maybe go for accountability with your coach. The default in the group is no advice, just witness and listen. And it creates such a clean field. One of my men's group guys, Tim, has been from the beginning so clear because he didn't want to have other people telling him, I don't want to hear your voices. I can already hear your like subconscious. Stay out of here.
In my
And
group,
I want your witnessing, right? He wants the witnessing. We all do.
in my group, it's no advice, only questions.
Yeah,
So you're
that's
only allowed
cool.
to ask questions. That's it.
And you do have the right to say, no questions today. I'm still
Sure,
processing.
yeah, absolutely. You can say I don't want questions, but and I really like that because it helps me expand my mind when people ask questions. I love questions, and it protects anybody from saying like, "Oh, you should do this or that." And I'm like, I don't need your opinion. You don't know me. You don't know my life. I mean, we might have been in this group for years, but you still will never understand this inside. So the questions are like, think about this. What about this? And what about this? And what about this? And I personally enjoy that a lot.
You know what I'm seeing too is like we have this plethora, super abundance of coaches. My gym trainer started here, Carlo, once a week on Wednesdays. And it was just like 1 to 3 people. Today it's like 15 people. It's been 6 months, 9 months. Just build, build, build his private clientele, having the weekly support, and it's like a $15 a class. I'm like, you should probably charge more, but you know what? Fuck it. This is great. And I think something like that kind of programming, so people get this like suite of the best tooling with interpersonal, live potential local meetings with their peers online if you really form a tighter group and they move around, complement it with that. A little bit of like a WhatsApp or Telegram group, or maybe it's a Locomore app-ish group, and you've just got that system for a relative bargain that takes you on the journey with the peer mentorship, with frameworks, with different books that people can plug into. Some people are going to be way more Brene Brown, but they're going to come into that co-ed group and be sharing. I'm doing it with Brene Brown or Richard Rohr or with like this local coach with Lacey Phillips or with Sevada, right? And I'm a dude with Sevada. I'm a woman with Sevada. I'm trans with Sevada, but I found what I need right now with Sevada and the cohort that and the culture that he's building in his way. And then that thing that we can do in that context to get people with their right personal growth, team consulting, matching, all the magic that happens where you feel the data is safe in your vault from even recording your coaching call so that you can own your own therapist after a while and say, is it okay if I use you in the way that we've interacted as my avatar for coach continuing? I'm going to bet that most of them will say yes, or let's just have a minor subscription deal, right? And that's really cool because what Greg was manifesting yesterday is like we are already there for being able to embody teachers or ourselves or our friends that he was talking about, friends who died, and he had enough Zoom calls that he could reanimate this person to have the enjoyment, at least some of the time, to soften the loss and to celebrate the memory of the absence of the live person is both bittersweet, but more sweet than bitter because you're not left in the chasm of nothing at all. and having to just have $200 a session
Yeah.
for an hour, right? And this is like that. There's an economic model in the current framework that makes it so codependent on one-on-one is the only system that's nourished other than AA. I don't know hardly any group work programs. Lacey Phillips is one of the coaches whose model you should look at. She does a super affordable version. The Sangha part, the group part, I don't think is that strong. There's a lot of men's groups out there, some of them pretty expensive, some of them very disciplinary and like you got to stay in our program. I'm seeing more of a network open system where your data, your work, and the peer group is really about like, I love you so much. I want you to be with the right partner or the right coach. When you leave by choice, that's golden for us. It's the same as with this enterprise. When you nourish yourself through Eden, and this collaborative exercise of doing this thing together, and you peel away to your own thing, have grown and defined what your work is. But some of the IP informs, this is what we've been working on with Elliot. He really tracked it. He was like, oh, Alpha Grove is my thing. I do great humane technology, already have built it. I'm going to bring this in. We're going to share the IP in an open source model. It's going to be applied in the context of local entrepreneurs and what we're talking about at the micro level. He's going to be able to peel away and do it to institutions, no arguments. And so it's this thing, you just go and say, my thing is mine the whole way through in this case, but creating the meta frameworks for other people like you as coaches to come in and then to adaptively move towards this model. Right? Like I could bring this to Landmark. Did you ever do Landmark education?
I haven't done the thing. I went to one of the things. There was certain things that didn't resonate with me. They really wanted to put me in a box, and I asked a question. I got kicked out because I was asking too many questions. I'm like, okay,
I could totally see
I
that.
guess questions are not welcome here.
I was on the brink. What bugged me the most, I like their system a lot. It's confrontational. It's really interesting. They have a scheme and a way of doing it. It wakens people for a relative bargain in an intensive weekend long process, $700. But they have 2 million plus graduates, 100,000 in network at any time. I'm like, is there any programming outside the fluorescent light building in Culver City and they have them around the world? Nope. Can we start our own group with the endorsement and support of nope, but there's nothing. So wouldn't something be better than nothing? And even if it's self-organized and informed by everything that we've learned, and wouldn't our enrollment be so much more powerful than having to go and convince people to come to the fluorescent light introductory thing and then become push resellers of this thing to prove that you can do enrollment and be bold? Right? To sell that thing that the financial incentives are for the leaders, the 50 people who at any given time are partners in the firm. Instead, oh yeah, we take a little cut of the subscription thing. We're making money that way. It's in community, and these are people supporting each other to develop their lives, their careers in every multidimensional way that Landmark promises to give you that versatility and the Sangha and the Sir Thriver network, that's many of them fucking killing it. And I'm like, we're going to do that.
See, the thing is, one thing that really I think about a lot with this app, right? And of course, this is way down the line because I'm skipping the beginning steps in my thoughts, right? But when I first texted you, when we first talked about this, how I see this as a revolution is because the way I envision how it's going to bring the right people together. It's going to create villages within villages, and it's going to connect the right people together. Because a lot of our problems nowadays, I personally think, is because of our dispersion. We're so disconnected from the people that we need to be connected to that our own light dims so much because we're shining light on so much shadow that doesn't belong to us. We're just lost in the chaos. But this app will bring people that belong together, and they will create little villages that are self-organized, that are self-governed, and then you even have the data that's actually putting out, here's a heat map of how this behavior looks. So if I travel to Africa or wherever, I'll already have the heat map of knowing exactly where my people are. If I go to a restaurant, I'll have a heat map of like, this is the kind of food like that, you will
And where my
always know.
edges and where my exciting edges. I want something challenging
Absolutely.
at the sushi restaurant. I love music, but I want music that's going to be interesting or people to jam with that are kind of at my level, but open to people coming in and will challenge me to grow, playing with them in, whatever it is in a friend who just came back and was pushed when he went to Mali, and he's an Ngoni maker, and he's been improvising and creating his own version of the game of how to play the Ngoni. And he gets there and they're like, no, 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 no. No, no, no. This is an ancient melody. This is an ancient tune and the way we play it. And he's like playing the first three strings, and the kids are like, that's boom. And they start singing the song. He's like, but it sounds like 10 other songs. And they're like, everyone 201 because he's starting to play it in the culture. And then when he comes back, he can now start with that melody with you guys, right? It's this guy, Lave, who's going to be playing with you guys, I'm pretty sure, is going to be able to bring ancient melodies like Veer can, like you can, and you start here or your own. And then it's just like get the soul of the melody of the tune, the way that it's played, expand it, chant it, play with it, the jazz, but it's on a standard that's one person's or one culture's soul expression and distilled to be, no, that's the song that we play for 1,000 years. Those things, right? That element of Dzogchen that I pulled into me as this element of Dzogchen. And there's the matching, but with Greg yesterday, another great allegory. He's like, what's so exciting about AI in his lecture that I'll share with the group at some point is AI can do all these powerful things. It can also fuck us up. He gets into that. But it can do this thing where just imagine you travel to like Africa and you put in your AirPods, it's going to be 300 millisecond latency. It's now 1.5 seconds to go back and forth. We just broke Babel. We just broke Babel. And I'm like, what you just said I'm going to be sharing with him. It's like, yeah, how many of us are traveling to Africa and how much of our lives is that? But you know what? Our neighborhood, it's a million different languages of people
Same
we
thing.
don't understand who are our best buddies with the best song that we don't even connect with right now because there's no means of finding the bridge in our pod isolated car home situation. And I don't want to go speed dating for 1,000 years doing tantra dating, speed
And
dating things, right?
even
I
if you
want,
do,
that's what AI can at least give me a better choice. So when I
I
go
mean,
to 10 events in the next 3 weeks, I'm like, bing, 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 growth, growth, satisfaction, fulfillment.
look, with 13 million people in Los Angeles, even if you go speed dating, it's such wasted energy. How about if the 10 speed dates I have already curated that are so close to my heart and who I am and my history that I
Yeah.
actually go to dates that are actually worth going to for me? I go to a speed date, like literally, I go to a speed date and I'm like, the curation sucks.
Well,
Like,
and then the warm up of the people before they get there sucks. So if you do this work with your friends, like we're talking about doing, you get the practice of doing self-reflection, refinement, and testing. Saying, no, this is what I want. Clarify what you want and your dreams, and then fucking test it according to your own priorities. Why haven't you, like, I have a question for you, Sevada. It's been 4 weeks since you talked about that dream and you haven't taken one action towards it. Maybe you don't really want that dream. Maybe it was just to be seen by your mother. Have you thought of doing IFS? Because you might be able to map those inner voices that are kind of shadow confusing the fuck out of you, you know, right? And or, oh, okay. You know what? This week I'm actually going to put it on the top of my list. And that thing that many coaches will say, like I got from the GPT for doing my admin, and the important priority stuff, 60 to 90 minutes a day on the one win that will advance your thing and give confidence to your team that you're taking care of business and you're taking your own thing as seriously as you're taking care of the thing that you're also enrolling them into, right? Okay, that's it. That's all I've got to do to prove to myself and to my team that I can grow in this way, get over myself, and explore the humps of why not, right? Oh, it's not cooked up enough yet. Oh, I hated mint. Oh, I've got self-sabotage going, right? Those are all the factors that have showed up in the last 2 weeks for not getting certain things done. It was a wise decision. It was also easily a camel whose back was broken because I hate the admin and I've got self-sabotage going too, right?
on that line of thinking that you're talking about. And again, I'm thinking way, my mind goes in the future a
It's
lot.
not that far. It's not that
The
far.
revolution that I also see in this app, once the village, when I talk about self-organizing and self-governance, right? In these villages, they'll be created. Then you can also actually see the vote each person casts by being, rather than check marking a box that arbitrarily an external force gave me two or three options from, right? You'll see movements of people that are voted by behavior,
And
and you'll
action.
have pockets of behavior votes that speak so much louder than, a check mark or any of those kind of things.
Yeah, repeat patronage, as we say in one frame, it's actions in another verifiable. Actions that are repeat actions. You showed up for an event, you paid the ticket, or you were just there, and then because Locomore is running, because you want, or Eden's running, you want it recording your experience. You have your own running. The facilitator's running their own. Everyone knows it's freaking private and going nowhere. Your voice stuff goes to your voice wallet, the other to the other, and the aggregate anonymized information of what happened under that facilitator or coach's work goes to the facilitator or the group leader in a group. And so it preserves privacy. No one's going in there saying, well, I can reverse engineer who was, but it's like if you're coming in there in this culture, right, in this community, in this movement with that attitude, you will quickly be expelled or amended, right? Because it's not going to sustain with the vibrational resonance of people saying, I'm doing me. I'm here to help the aggregate do itself better and for the system to work better. I'm not trying to mine shit. That's what we're leaving is surveillant, manipulative mining, right? And keep your attention on me and I'm going to steal you for my list thing. It's just like so crude, right? This culture and who we will attract, like you were saying, is going to be people who are like, I want to do the work. I want to be excellent in communications. I want to grow in all my dimensions. I want to realize my dreams. I want to be with other people who take full responsibility. The
This
system is
is
not responsive. I'm not even responsive to myself. Oh, let's start here, right?
that's the part, because if you really want it, you have to do the work. And I think that's why voting by being is so much better than voting by a check mark, because that's the only way. And if you show the path, you're like, hey, the path exists, but you can only vote by being, not by, just saying you want or whatever.
Yeah. And that thing of like the villages within the villages, it's communities within communities, right? So communities of place and or shared purpose, affinity, or interest. I keep using that phrase to test and see whether I'm missing anything in it. And I don't think I'm missing anything in that phrase that describes what we're doing. It's communities primarily of place because we really need people to connect face to face. And then the online is so much more meaningful between us because we know we're going to bump into each other too. And we're, adjacent in LA. We're working on a common project. You want to be able to do it with as much FaceTime and the minimum required of this because screens are depleting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
nourishing
even
at a certain level, but you really got to be tight with the balance of it. And we really want to move people off screen and into more interpersonal, which just requires sometimes a choice of place and then very selectively who your online, non-IRL, WhatsApp communities. It's for like grander purpose where the affinity is just rarer and requires more cross-national or international selection or where it's just convenient as fuck to also do this to be able to get a broader group of your very specific, like I love Zouk dancing. Now, the Zouk dancers in this city at this stage, they're across the whole city. We will meet in person, but you connect with them through a WhatsApp group. There's no other way.
But I think what it also helped, I mean, this we're not going to get away from, right? But minimizing it, absolutely. And I think over time, what this would allow, if we start having, and I keep calling heat maps, right, for lack of a better word, if we
Yeah.
start have heat maps of pockets in the city or around the world, even, right? I can be like, you know what? Maybe that's where I want to go live. Like,
Yeah.
if I really see the heat map is in that pocket, maybe here is not my place, and maybe there. And, rather than being so disconnected and then having to do the Zoom thing, I can, like, no, if I just, my lease is up, let me just, go to Highland Park. Maybe what I was looking for is there, but I'm 20 miles away from it. So if I don't go to the coffee shop every day, I would never know that's my place, right? But
Yeah.
once this app creates these structures of heat maps and villages, it's like you're much more connected to knowing where you go. It's like having a GPS that is much better than type in your destination. Like, I don't know my destination. Like, how can
Hmm.
I tell you where I need to go? I'm asking you. So, yeah.
I mean, that's where this guy who created Time Back and Alpha School, um, he's created a lifelong learning, personalized, gamified learning platform that you do in 2 hours to learn your skills that are learnable through masterclass teachers, right? Online Zoom, Khan Academy. These are all stupid forms of it. He's taken it and said, oh, we're going to just actually meet your learning style for your current passion and this design your dream game, but he's doing it for kids in K through 12. It applies for lifelong reskilling right now. We need it so much. What happens when you have a dynamic system like that that's paired with 2 hours of that kind of learning to 6 hours of project-based engagement? That's the formula for, doubling the speed of K through 12 education and scoring almost 1600s across the board for all the kids from a diverse range of skills, learning types, ADD, doesn't fucking matter. They take kids who would fail in the ABCD system and turn them all into 1600 performers, even able to master that stupid test form that is not adaptive to many forms of testing, right? So if you had adaptive forms of testing, improving your mastery, you'd hit 1600s even more regularly and quickly. Big point though is what this enables is you can travel with your skills. So if it's a place-based thing where it's like, no, I really want to master rock climbing in the best indoor place, live close to it and be able to move your skills and team with you, find your new project mates there, or if it's something even more extravagant and clearly defined by place, like snowboarding, powder in season, or wind kite surfing, where you want the wind in prime season or the big waves in season or whatever it is, you can go there and your profile will boop. Here's your locals for a lot of the stuff you'd want to do in person. And you can literally isolate the places that have the best then overlap for those very things and continue your remote stuff movable, 100% movable. So not everyone wants to be all moving all the time, but it applies in many ways. The way that translation becomes all the languages of everything that we want to learn and relate with others across difference and find them and be able to communicate. You can do the same thing with place-based conditions or communities that are non-place based.
I
And
mean,
they become more adaptive, personalizable, progressively challenging you at just the right level. It's just like it is better players, better game, better world, better life.
even on the smaller scale locally. So, for example, right? Let's say I'm a coach and I want to put on a workshop that is for yoga people, right? And well, in my city, there is 72 yoga studios, right? I could just do it at a random place, or I could know the owner of this yoga studio has the same life philosophy that I have.
Mm,
And because of that, over the last 30 years, the people that go to that studio are actually the people that think along the line of what I'm offering, right? I'm already placed. I'm not wasting energy. I'm not putting on a workshop where 8 out of the 10 people are not really aligned. And I have to take my 10 plus offering and make it a 2 plus because I have to accommodate for the people that are not aligned, right? Or I
100%.
want to find a wife, right? Maybe I better go to the coffee shop that's frequented with people like me rather than just going to a random coffee shop where I keep meeting people. We have conversations. They're like, you don't wear those kind of shoes, then no, so I'm not an option for you, right? So it just makes it even on the small scale local level.
Yeah.
I find it a powerful tool to this, to know how to navigate your philosophy of life.
Yeah. Roommates, tenants, landlords, and like, rides for ride share. It really, not only is it safe to pick up someone who's now modern 3, 4.0 hitchhiking, you're going to have a great conversation in the hour of traffic together, or you're going to skip it in the HOV line and have a great half hour, right? That's stuff that we can totally hack the system for, right? We have, like someone said yesterday, great sign of abundance. So many people have cars in this town. But it's like the same thing of like you can be fat on abundance and be poor in our current society, and that's not a healthy thing. Everyone can have a car, and stupidly for many people at rush hour, It's all the people going point to point at the same time. And that applies in so many ways. Why do it alone when you can do it together? Together's almost always better if you do it intelligently.
Together is the way, my friend.
It
Otherwise,
works in the
why are we
traffic
here?
paradigm as with the whole project. I put it at the top of my latest version of the doc. We can go, what is it? Further, faster, better together intelligently.
I love that, but even the deeper I go into life, I don't, the further, the better, all that stuff, great. That's optimization, right? But if I was in paradise by myself, it'd be great for day one, week one, month one, maybe even year one, right? But life is all about us. If
Yeah.
it wasn't for everybody else here, all the passion and love and depth and everything I'm talking about is because there's other people here. And it's not about better, it's not about further. It's about the reflection, the back and forth between allows for something that I can never have by myself.
How would you put it in a short phrase?
I'll ask ChatGPT about that.
We can have a bunch. That's the thing I really love about, where I've been for branding is like, and what I do like about Google is they went for the goofy name with the Fruit Loops colors, which is like any branding person who tells you, oh no, you got to go through my whole branding exercise and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, have you checked out Google? So, but Apple, I'm like, yeah, but check out Google. They're bigger. And why? Because they then adapt that logo in the most precious place above the search window. Every day it's some goofball thing that some artist or someone inside the team or someone who they like came and just did. It's the theme today. It's America's birthday. It's, African American Gay Rights Day. It's like the nature. It's some news thing that's positive. Whatever. It's just like so cool. And where I see ours is, oh, it's you. And maybe and maybe a community is featured in its consensus voice that everyone's like, oh yeah, that logo. Oh yeah, that thing that one person said in our group that really captures it well. Same, right? You are Eden, right? I am Eden in my own definition of what paradise is. If you want it, like, if it's S&M and freaking like, what's it called? Shibari, go for it. Do it to your heart's satisfaction. If
And
it's
those are
nurturing
so
a
fun.
family and taking care of babies, go for it. I don't, it's not what I care. It's really self-defined. When it comes to the shared community, a place, affinity, purpose, and so on, then we need to aim for consensus. And in the Iroquois ancient practice of council in every culture, ideally like unanimity. Ideally unanimity, often less one who's grumpy that day.
See, as these villages form, that will automatically happen because instead of having 10 people wanting 10 different things in one circle, the circles will meet where they meet, wanting the same thing or such similar things where that
Yeah.
consensus and unanimity, like it's already there. I find so much of life is really about finding the right circle because once you're there, things are just so much easier, faster, better, like automatically.
Yeah, well, then there's this curious thing too that I was talking with an eco village group yesterday, where the temptation in a lot of eco villages, oh, I want to be with this group of people. Why don't the old ones work? They were trying to do, one guy who was in there was doing his analysis of that and sharing it. And I'm like, don't mean to interrupt. There's a reason why 8 billion people are mostly choosing to live in cities and live in their own private spaces that they can choose to move around in, because nothing monolithic works. And everyone is repelled by monolithic, orthodox, traditional constraint. No, it must be this way for the thing to work. Traditionalist society. Even among them in those churches, they are eclectic and wild. And some people are doing public work. Some people are with the kids. Some people also do yoga, even when it's a sin in their group, because those yoga people always worship deities. It's like, no, they don't. There's a bunch of non-dual yoga. There's a bunch of atheist yoga. Fuck off, right? And it's just like, so it's these overlapping, the complexity of eclectic expression, like British nobles used to be like, oh, they're all so weird, right? Because they had so much time and abundance, they could start to do this self-expression almost before anyone else. A few other aristocratic societies modestly, but in the contemporary society, the Brits were the first one to get it with industrial wealth. And it just allowed this crazy eclecticism, a lot of wounded stuff unprocessed. It's like, I'm going fox hunting with Viking with pins, weird shit, right? Right. But we're a version of that that's on the edge of being able to do it in a healthy way, meaning it's authentic self-expression, it's true calling, it's responsive to the field. It doesn't take for granted the labor and the slaves working in the kitchen downstairs, upstairs, downstairs, and whatever those British shows are always about. With we're fascinated with the aristocrats, but we show the servants too. It's just like why, right? Because we're breaking that, right? No servant class, no owner class, everyone kind of an owner, everyone an entrepreneur, everyone responsible, but then everyone able to be complex to the extent that they want to means that yes, you find your circles, but it's nice to be in a field of relative density if you like that complexity, to be able to intersect with those circles in person and not to have to go to Bali for it. And nor, if you want privacy, that it's not possible for you to live on the periphery and just come in incisively and be your beautiful introvert self during your cave period of life for a while, right? Like we both did. And then move in more selectively, more with nuance into which circles and when. But it's both and of these things that I'm like, I see my daughters and their friends all doing this. And I've been doing it as a kind of early stage Gen Xer version of it. And you're doing it as whatever the next generation is, older Gen Millennial, I guess.
I don't
Older millennial? I don't know what the fuck you are. What's 42? But there's this evolution of towards the possibility. And then the feeling our way kind of blindly towards what would really be the field conditions, the sandbox that would allow us to play appropriately with this emergence. And now with the I think we're both at that point, where you've been going in the similar direction, but now I understand better. It's like in this coaching orientation of this peer support network thing that I find is like going to be a vital part of what next. And it's like a missing piece of the puzzle. It's the next piece of the puzzle for what happens after someone's lit up in Deborah's engagement moment. The app is showing its magic. Her event is showing its magic. So I'm lit. What next? Well, wait until we have everyone in a network effect to do matching. Help us do that. Why? Get in a coaching sangha, enroll your friends in that and the experience. Now we have an engine that really is like, and that's the stickiness. We don't need a lot of your time, but we want you to clarify your intention and help you find your match. And we're just in this experiment. You're in this experiment, defining your dreams with increasing clarity, getting to know yourself with increasing precision and your dynamic change within that, knowing your who along the way, and then finding your edge and your growth priorities and having a process to just, okay, if your priority is this 60 to 90 minutes a day, the next thing on your main gig, your important responsibility, my dying elder or something, your other responsibility to yourself, the side gig I want to nurture, playing the guitar, becoming a coach. Okay, boom. I can see I'm advancing now based on the advancement and the success of other people who've done this AA program and gone through it with a buddy, with a mentor, with a group, with access to occasional great AI support and occasional great in-person, expensive but worth it support because you're getting the consulting. Like I'm getting Christina at an incredible sum per hour, but she's a Yale MBA. I don't need that much of her time. But the gravitas, clarity, experience, training that she got in that mode, Techstars, Yale MBA, plus years doing it at that level, means that when we write the plan for the Swift scaling, it's credible, it's based on current best practice, and she knows who to go to bring on as team who will do it flawlessly when it's time to grow and will love to be part of this team when it's funded. And we can go to market with that very differently than Scott saying, yeah, I can, maybe gonna try, right? Which is cool, but is not for what we're responsible for in this case. We actually want ninjas in every seat and mentor ninjas guiding us in those seats so that we're navigating with super precision and just a great support network for ourselves as we do this thing.
I have to buy myself a ninja suit then.
Already got it. Got to put a logo on it.
Yeah.
Very cool, dude. That was a great drop. I think we covered like tons of terrain. When did we start? 11:30?
Yeah,
Whew. Okay. I'm feeling full. How are you?
I'm good. It's good.
Yeah.
I mean, we could go for days and days. I mean,
We
look,
will. We
you
will.
said this might end up superficial. I'm like, I don't think so, but
No.
we
The
gotta,
alignment, the
little bit.
discovery. Yeah. Now, so I want you to come to like when we do our thing, we're going to do what's your expression? What's your call? What's the alignment thing? How does it inform what we're doing that you're both going to learn from and inform the thing and be our entrepreneur of that zone? Right. And the coaching one is huge because, like I joked about, with a friend at Sunset with my buddy Gallo and his girlfriend I was meeting for the first time, Wanda. And I'm like, she's like, yeah. So like Gallo's like, what's your dream for this year? He does these grand things sometimes. And I'm like, yeah, I'm dreaming. My dream and my wish is to fulfill this super project, the revolution, and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, you know how coaches in neighborhoods or when they're traveling, they can't find clients and people can't find them. We're building a thing to find people like that. It's local entrepreneurs. Because I joke, there's like, if it used to be the football quarterback and the cheerleader becomes the CEO executive and the homemaker maven in the community. Nowadays, it's all DJ and coach, DJ and life and career coach. Ha 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 ha. Right? Because it's like almost banal that there's a super abundance of both and it's not gendered. Everyone's a freaking coach or a DJ or whatever else in the spectrum that represents both functional, interpersonal stuff and artistic expression for as a curator more than necessarily as a creator, as the creator curator, whatever you want to call it. And it's not a joke because it's one of the most important creative arts that we have is to support each other on the journey. And that so-called coaching role is it's just huge for a time of transitional exponential change and disruption that we can now bring in super ability to any micro person the way that the big machine can hire the greatest talent for them. Turns out from Christina's experience, they don't want work-life balance for the tech MBA types. They're like, 10% of us win, so fuck the losers. And she's like, I want to support the losers so it doesn't lose so much and they don't die from it and they don't have to take the corporate gig from exhaustion and despair and they can stay in the creative part that we know entrepreneurs create the economic engine and the improvement at 10x the rate of corporate. Corporate just mines monopoly most of the time, scales automation and systems. That's cool, but the growth and the innovation, especially in a time of change, happens by individuals, 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 and individual enablers, collaboration enablers. That's coaching. And coaching's huge. So modeling this as a career opportunity, as an upsell experiential for private practice, but also cultivating more group practice, which is really sorely lacking in most group coach or coach training. It's all about you getting $250 an hour to $10,000 an hour. Upsell forever, like Shoshana Raven, who his energy is right on, but that sales pitch thing is sick. Ugh. Anyway, but you get what I'm saying. There's an
Oh,
opportunity.
absolutely,
There's
absolutely.
such great growth in this that I think there's tremendous opportunities to bring in a bunch of B, C, and D lister coaches to be like help build the Avengers strategy for that whole industry with us. And we're all going to benefit from better data, personalization, finding out what works, and matching people to the right groups instead of you're the coach for everybody because you got to sell to everybody because you have a stupid matching system.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I could talk forever about it. Exactly. All
same
right. What time are we at? I'm just going to check my thing. And where's my damn calendar? There it is. Oh, and there's the live stream too. That's funny. Boom. And oh yeah, well, good. I've just got some homework to do.
Cool.
Awesome.
That was good. I enjoyed this talk. This was, yeah. Well, we'll have
Cool.
more.
I'm gonna stop the live stream. Boom.